Thank you, guys. I should probably have made sure my sound was on before going through the whole little spiel about the website. That was fun. I put the microphone in front of, like, right here, where it is, the microphone. And then I got up to get the coffee filled, and I never turned the microphone back on. Great start to the playoffs, but as I was saying, it's a great day. Playoff baseball. Love it. Long season. Finally got to the playoffs. My Yankees are in. We've got an interesting slate lined up for today. I was just saying we've got the first two games in. They're up on the website. Looks like the Brewers lineup is kind of imminent. They were just posted news about Sal Frelick being on the roster, so their roster's in. I'm sure we'll get that lineup during the show. But some really quality pitching matchups. We've got a weird spot at the end of the night that we'll get into with that Braves matchup, but it seems like there's momentum now that it's going to be Bryce Elder. So we'll take a look there. Everything is up to date up on the website. I just went through this on mute, but I'll say it again. Everything's behind the paywall now. Baseball playoff is going to be behind the paywall. All of our different plans. Man, I did this so much better the first time around. Baseball projections, content, home run picks, rankings, all behind the paywall now. Very small hurdle. We're not looking to break anybody's bank. We're not looking to take your bankroll. We want you to use your bankroll to win more money on these sites using our projections. Everything at rotoscouts is under $1 a day, regardless of which plan you're on. Weekly, monthly, and quarterly plans are available. Every plan gives you access to every single thing that we cover, every tool, every piece of content for every single sport. No hidden fees, all in, one price, under $1 a day. So, for example, if you go and you buy the weekly plan so that you can play baseball right now, that's $1 a day from now till next Tuesday, up to whatever time you buy it. That will include this coming weekend's football slate, just as an example. So think those things out. Find the plan that fits your needs the best. If you need anything at all, please ping me in our Discord. I'll drop a link into Discord for anybody who happens to not be in there. And then we'll dive into this slate because I wasted 3 minutes of our show. There's the Discord link. So I really appreciate everybody who's been signing up for memberships. They're moving. It makes me feel good and definitely is off to a good start. So really appreciate all you guys. Understand if it's a bit of a surprise to anybody who's out there. It's been free for the better part of 18 months. But time to monetize a little bit. If it wasn't endless time and effort, it'd be a different story. So let's get over here. And let's take a look at Vegas to start things off as usual. Updated Vegas board playoff totals, October baseball in play. So very, very low run lines. This is typical for the playoffs. We get fantastic pitchers, and you get aggressive use of bullpens, and you get some cold weather, and it all just kind of crashes together into some low totals. So a 6-run total between the Tigers and the Astros. 2.81 on the Tigers side, and 3.26 on the Astros side. Fantastic matchup of two of the best lefties in baseball. Framber Valdez going up against Tariq Skubal. Should be a good one. The Astros do have Yordan Alvarez both on the playoff roster and in the lineup. That was a major question mark after he was hurt down the stretch, but he is there and he's going to be playing today. So the Tucker-Alvarez combo is alive against the lefty. KC against Baltimore should be a fun series. Corbin Burns going for Baltimore. Cole Ragans going for KC. Another tremendous pitching matchup. 298 implied total for the Royals. 359 implied total, a little better for the Orioles in a home game. Freddie Peralta on the hill for the Brewers facing the Mets. Mets, a lot of traveling. At least they didn't have to go to San Diego. But won a wild one in Game 1 yesterday. If you saw any of that, just ridiculous end to that game. It went very clean through the first 7 innings. Schwellenbach and Tyler McGill kind of held their own. And then it just went wild late. And if you see, there's a bunch of tweets going around about it with the win share. At those last few innings, it spiked to 90 this way, 90 that way, 90 this way. Nuts. But Freddie Peralta going for the Brewers. And then the Mets answering back with Luis Severino, one of the more affordable pitchers on both sites. Definitely a talented enough guy, had a very, very strong year. But one of the weaker points maybe of the pitching slate, going to see which version of Louis we get, but you can see that in the Brewers total, 4.12 implied total. Second highest on the board behind the Padres in the next game. Pods pulling a 4.28 and quite a bit of popularity. That's the funky spot. It's Michael King on the mound for the Padres. Nothing funky about that one. 3.31 implied total for Atlanta with tons of strikeout upside for King. On this deep pitching slate, he's actually our top projected pitcher. But then we've got the Braves. They're just incredibly shorthanded in the top of the rotation right now. Dodgers are too when we get to them a little bit later on, but not in this show, but later on in the playoffs. But for a while last night, it was rumored that it was going to be Ian Anderson making this start, and it still might be. It's not confirmed yet. But I moved it over to Bryce Elder. I had actually all three of them in the model. Right, so we've got Elder and Smith-Shawver right there. So they're actually on here. So in case it's one of them, we'll be able to talk about them. But it seems like it's going to be Elder, who I actually had at the lowest projection out of all those guys. Ian Anderson hasn't actually pitched in the show since 2022, but he's got a couple good playoff starts on his resume. And then Smith-Shawver, just another option, and would actually possibly be the highest end option. But it's going to be an interesting spot there. Either way, Padres bats looking decent and popular at that run total, but definitely favors pitching in the playoffs, always does. So top of the pitching slate, like I said, Michael King against that high strikeout Atlanta lineup with some definite gettable spots. It's not a safe spot by any means, but King is more than good enough to beat that team. He's got good stuff. He's very good at keeping the ball in the yard, and he's a high strikeout pitcher. So 99 on FanDuel works for me. 81 on DraftKings is silly. That price is way too low. Framber Valdez against Detroit. Congratulations to the Tigers. They made their insane run to the playoffs. It's very likely that this comes crashing to a halt, especially against Framber Valdez in game one here, especially with Framber at 10-6, 8,500. Dynamite left-handed pitcher who's excellent at keeping the ball in the yard, excellent at suppressing power and opposing runs. Just not a good spot for the young Tigers with all those good lefties in the lineup. Or making up the best version of their lineup, I should say. Just doesn't look like the spot for Detroit. Seems like a decent spot for Framber, especially at 8,500 on DraftKings. That's just cheap. Skubal, best pitcher in baseball right now, 11,900 across sites. Well worth getting to, but obviously a big step up in price. And going up against an absurdly talented Astros lineup that has a very low strikeout collection of hitters. All their best hitters are very low strikeout. Several of their hitters, the righties are the righties, and then their two big lefties do not really suffer lefty-lefty overall. That said, in the there are lefties and there are lefties thing, these are two of the best lefties in the entire sport, if not the two best. So, you kind of temper expectations for Houston. Realistic projections there for Skubal, and could easily step up and win the slate. Cole Ragans against Baltimore at 9 and 8,800 across sites, just as viable as any of the guys above him. Very, very little daylight between any of these top handful of pitchers. So Ragans perfectly playable and should have some shares across multiple lineups, 9,000, 8,800. Just a challenging matchup against Baltimore, but that's another youngish team facing the playoffs. Never know how people respond to that, anything that we can quantify, but no reason to write off Ragans. Corbin Burns against KC, similar thing. KC also got Vinny Pasquantino back. He's on the roster and in the lineup for the playoffs, so big add for KC. He was missing the last month and change. Vinny's very, very good. One of the league leaders in RBIs even with the missed time. Had a fantastic season. We talked about him all year. I think you guys know that. So, high danger spot for Corbin Burns against a very talented, very low strikeout KC lineup, but he is still Corbin Burns, or at least the 2024 version of. 9,700, 8,300, not bad pricing. Freddie Peralta against the Mets, it's the same thing. 86.79 is downright reasonable for Freddie, even the version of Freddie that we got this year, which was a little bit diminished compared to other seasons, but still very good overall. Surging Mets team, a lot of momentum, a lot of fun to watch. If you saw any of that game one yesterday, it was just bananas. Don't know that we get the repeat performance. Might be a bit of a hangover kind of a day. They had to get up and out and over to Milwaukee. So potential upside. a little bit for Freddie beyond the typical start. Not that that's influencing the projection here, but he just comes in at a good number with appreciable ceiling at 86.79. That's a pretty good buy. The three-hitter Braves, again, we're probably dealing with Bryce Elder, the lowest end out of those three guys at 7,200, 6,000. Seems like he would be targetable. He's very cheap for shares, but not all that appealing because he kind of lacks upside, especially against that low strikeout San Diego lineup. And then Luis Severino at 82.72, I definitely think is worth a look, especially price-wise, especially on DK. Going to be your most reliable out of anybody in green. So definitely a spot worth considering. 115, hit the like button if you haven't already. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't. Check out our guys at acemine.io for all your sim needs. We were showing those. Oh, man, it's such a all over it kind of night in those football slates last night. I think my top lineup finished in like 30-something place. Gino, if Gino had done anything in the fourth quarter, we're just the whole game throwing one more touchdown pass while throwing 395 yards. Give me a second touchdown pass. We're over the top for the win. Was tied a few ways, but not that many. Would have been nice. Pissed me off. Showdown slate didn't go as well for the Detroit-Seattle game. But the full slate, I threw in not a full slate of entries. And came away wishing I had thrown in a full slate of entries because we were all over that one. Hopefully we'll be all over the baseball slate today. So 115, we're going game by game. We're going to go through these four. We're going to get out of here by 2 o'clock because I got to get some lineups built, so I'm going to have a half hour there to do that. So it's not necessarily our longest show, but I'm pretty confident we can get there. If we go a couple minutes over, we'll go a couple minutes over. No big deal. So, dynamite matchup in our first game. Again, two of the very best left-handed pitchers in all of baseball. Framber Valdez at 8,500 is an absolute bargain over there. No issues with Skubal at 96 or 11,000 on FanDuel. 10.6 for Framber on FanDuel. Perfectly reasonable. It's just a little bit more difficult to reach. You've got some, high-priced hitters involved in a lot of these games. So a little bit more challenging to get to these guys on FanDuel. Framber on DraftKings is a fantastic buy. For the season, 24% strikeout rate for Framber. He's facing a team with a 26.9% strikeout rate. As far as the lineup goes, several, again, of their best hitters in the Tigers lineup are left-handed. So we get no Kerry Carpenter today. You get no Colt Keith today. You do have Riley Green, obviously, is the everyday star on this team right now. Parker Meadows is in the lineup but hitting 7th. Sweeney dipping down to the 9 spot. But it's a gettable Tigers lineup for Framber, and as stated and as we've discussed for years now, he's just the best in baseball at keeping the ball down. 0.4 degree average launch angle this year. Last year it was 4.2. Year before, negative 3.6. Year before that, negative 5-something. Resulted in a 1.85% home run rate on 5.3% barrels for Framber this year. 2.91 ERA with a 3.08 xFIP. Again, 24% strikeouts is perfectly fine, especially when you're going up against a team with this much strikeout in it. And he induced an 11.4 swinging, 29.8% CSW on the season. By every metric, Framber had one of his better seasons. This was a strong, strong season out of Framber. Gives up a little bit in terms of hard hits, exit velo, but again, as we've always talked about, if it's being pounded into the ground, we care a whole hell of a lot less. So I think you're taking some weapons away from this Tigers team. Everybody relegated to below a 5, not even halfway to the magic number. That's Riley Green and a lefty-lefty against Framber here. Limiting to the Tigers' offense. They would be the lowest end stack in the stack rankings. They are, I believe, the lowest ranked stack. Lowest, I believe, as well home run numbers against Framber. It makes a lot of sense. They're playable across a lot of lineups. You should definitely have some. Short slate like this, playoff slate, low run totals. This is a slate where little scoring events could have a big impact. Right? We could go through this slate, and it's most likely not going to happen. We'll most likely have one of these teams go off at least. But even if only one goes off, then RBI double here might be a slate winner. In a 2-0 game, an RBI double could be a slate winner if everything plays light. So definitely worth considering even against the good pitchers. Skubal, the presumptive AL Cy Young winner at 2.39 ERA, a 2.83 xFIP, 30% strikeouts, through 192 innings in 31 starts, walked just 4.6%, gave up just a 1.99% home run rate on a 12-degree average launch. Nothing wrong with his contact numbers at 33.5% hard hits, 87.4 miles an hour of exit velo. You just have two lurking power bats that are among the best left-handed hitters in all of baseball, full stop. And they are the two best lefty-lefty hitters, in my opinion, in baseball. And they're the two best lefty-lefty power hitters in baseball. So both Kyle Tucker and Jordan Alvarez above the magic number against Skubal for a home run. Everybody else well below it. But those two guys not suppressed by the matchup. Leads you to a little bit more Astros. They project out as the higher-end lineup. They've got better home run marks up and down the lineup. They've got better overall projections. But they are facing an absolutely fantastic buzzsaw of a pitcher that might just carve this lineup up for 6-7 innings. Skubal in his last outing went 7 against the Rays. He struck out 7, no earned runs, 1 walk. 5 against the Royals, 3 hits, 1 earned run, 7 strikeouts. That's against the Royals. Good start against Colorado. You'd have to go to August 2nd against KC. He gave up 5 runs, and that was his worst game of the season. So he's pretty good. Fromber, last time out, 5 2/3, 3 earned, 4 strikeouts. That was against Seattle. Kind of a disappointing start since it was Seattle. Had been on a run of 4 straight starts where he worked into the 7th inning, completed the 7th 3 times, gave up 2 runs total across the 4 games. Struck out, 26 hitters across the 4 games. That was against KC, Arizona, Oakland, and San Diego. So 3 out of the 4 of those are playoff teams. 3 out of the 4 of those are some of the best teams in baseball. So Fromber, also very good. In terms of the lineups, heavily favors the Astros in the head-to-head here, but again, everything's in the mix today. We want to spread. We want to get a good mix of lineups, focus on combinations on a short slate, focus on getting differentiation through combination rather than just taking total flyers on the lowest owned possible players in bad spots. Up top for the Tigers, Matty Vierling getting a shot in the leadoff role against the lefty. Vierling had a good year, 16 home runs, a 166 ISO, 108 WRC+. Got on base at a 312 clip. He's fine, 21.3% strikeout rate. Not a tremendous hitter, but nearly a 40% strikeout rate on the year. Doubled his barrel rate year over year. And, we saw good results for it. Overall, that's an average player. Right around or maybe even a little bit below replacement level, but definitely playable at the top of this lineup if you're going to Tigers. Same thing with Justin Henry. Right, Malloy comes in with 8 home runs and 230 plate appearances, a 163 ISO, 11 points below average for run creation. Striking out at a 37% clip is problematic over 230 plate appearances. That's pretty aggressive for a guy who's not really turning in tremendous contact, tremendous power. So it's a spot that Fromber could exploit, and he's only got a 3.21 in the home run model, but he has put decent bat on ball, a 10.9% barrel, 37% hard hits on the season. So you can include him. He is a righty bat. First priority bat in that lineup would definitely be Riley Green, 4,800, 3,200, pretty good price. Riley hit 24 home runs. He's the leader in their lineup, their confirmed lineup in our home run model today. Since it actually does matter, let me give you the quick breakdown in splits. Green this season significantly worse against left-handed pitching for average on base, etc., but actually did hit lefties for power pretty decently. In 152 plate appearances, 6 of his 24 home runs, and a 220 ISO. That's against a 213, 265, 433 slash line, of course, and a 95 WRC+, but at least the power is still there. He can still drive the ball against a lefty. As time goes on, that'll probably improve lefty-lefty as far as just being a hitter against lefties. Against righties, 280, 377, 496, 216 ISO with 18 home runs. Was fantastic against righties. But still, again, the power is still there, and it's just, reasonable idea of power today in the models, not exactly running away with it. Andy Ibanez wildly miscast in the cleanup role. I probably would have gone Spencer Torkelson, even with Tork's strikeout problems and everything. It's not like Ibanez is lower strikeout at 25.8. Does hit lefties fairly effectively. He fills 4 positions for 2,500 for a cleanup hitter on FanDuel. You could do worse. 2,800, 2 positions on DraftKings. He's in play, but again, 5 home runs over 244 chances, a 116 ISO, and 87 WRC+. This is the guy we're going to have hit cleanup game 1. Like, just give me Kerry Carpenter, lefty, and I'd rather have that. And the Ibanez cleanup, weird choices in this Tigers lineup today. Wensil Perez has gotten a lot of looks against lefties on the season. He's hit 9 home runs overall. He's stolen 9 bases. On the year against lefties, better against lefties, 251, 303, 406 with a 155 ISO, 1% above average for run creation, and 8 of his 9 home runs. But again, we're really not looking home runs all that aggressively against Framber here. So you're looking at guys who can sequence. You're looking for guys who can help create runs. Wensil Perez is only okay at that. So mix and match quality. Torkelson, 39% hard hits, 6.7% barrels, a whole lot better than when he came back up from his demotion. Ended up at 10 home runs on the season, a 155 ISO, 219, 295, 374. Not getting excited about that bat either. Torkelson kind of falls into that same category. Decent ability to drive the ball and improving again in that department. Hit more than 30 home runs in his second year last year. But even last year, in a good year, 233, 313, 446. Just had a 213 ISO and a 107 WRC plus with 31 home runs to go with it. This year was a meltdown, but if we're looking for sequencing, if we're looking for quality, if we're looking for limiting strikeouts or anything to suggest that this team's going to be able to get on top of Framber, it's difficult to envision with Torkelson, difficult to envision with Wensil. That's kind of what Andy Ibanez might give you, but that's not what you're looking for necessarily from the cleanup hitter. It's a weird configuration. Parker Meadows, lefty, 4,000, 3,000. A little bit of multi-category contribution ability in terms of stolen bases and home runs. Limited in both in his limited appearances. Against lefties this season, he was okay for average on base, 263, 311, 421 versus against righties, 239, 309, 437. Little reverse splits in the slash line, but the power went the other way, 197 ISO against righties, 158 against lefties. But positive run creator against both, 108 WRC plus lefty-lefty, 111 lefty-righty. So Meadows at least kind of interesting. For the season, it totaled out to a 189 ISO with a 111 WRC plus. One of 3 positive run creators in that lineup. Jake Rogers, nothing more than a mix and match catcher who really is only a dart at home runs and really, really limited for home run upside in this one. 9.9% barrels, 41.3% hard hits, 10 dingers in his 337 plate appearances. He's worth a mix if you're building a bunch of Tiger stacks. You definitely want to have some. He'll be a big, big piece of differentiation today. Strikes out nearly 30% of the time, and we've got him all the way down at a 2.23 in the home run model, though. Limited option. You chase Framber at some point, you get him against the bullpen arm, you never know what happens, but it's a big if. And then Trey Sweeney, a rookie who came up late in the season, 119 plate appearances, did blast 4 home runs. 155 ISO, 81 WRC plus, had a 44.3% hard hit rate. Probably a little bit overmatched here, but getting a shot. Against lefties in the very small sample, 29 plate appearances, he did have one of his 4 home runs and a better slash line lefty-lefty. 269, 345, 423, but again, that is a microscopic sample. But a mixer at shortstop, I guess, for a very cheap price. Kid does have talent, undeniably. It's just facing Framber Valdez in your first playoff game from the bottom of the lineup. It's a little limiting for DFS. The Astros get their premium version of the lineup in for the first game here. Like that they have Caratini in there. But it's all about the top 4. And then the creamy middle there with a couple playable people. But Altuve, Tucker, Alvarez, and Bregman. The core of this team over multiple seasons now. Everybody had at least a good year. Alvarez had a pretty great year. A little, honestly, underwhelming by his absurd standards. He dropped 3.5 points of barrel rate from 18 to a still spectacular 14.5%. He dropped from 52.2% hard hits down to 49.7, which is still fantastic. He improved his strikeout rate from 18.5 to 15. Lost a few percentage points of walk along the way. Ended up slashing 308, 392, 567 with a 259 ISO, 35 home runs over 635 chances. Last year, 31 home runs, 293, 407, 583, a 290 ISO, and a 170 WRC+. So again, we're slightly off the mark in some of those categories. Home runs were improved. Average were improved. On base went down slightly. Slug went down slightly. ISO went down a little bit more, but the WRC+ went down by just 2 points. Jordan Alvarez, by any measure, is fantastic. Against lefties, I'm not going to look up the individuals. Well, I'll do it. Why not? Actually, it's 130. I probably shouldn't look up their individual splits. Suffice to say that over a fair chunk of time, both Kyle Tucker and Jordan Alvarez, terrific hitters against left-handed pitching. Lefty-lefty does not impact those two like it impacts most lefties. And they're two of the best in the game. Tucker came up with 23 home runs, 11 steals, a 408 on base, 296 ISO, and a 180 WRC plus this year, 289, 408, 585 in his limited 339 plate appearances with the worst shin bruise of all time. 13.44 to lead the team and the slate in the home run model today. 10.47 for Alvarez. Skubal's not bad at giving up home runs by any measure, but those two guys are good at finding them. Altuve ahead of those two guys. Fantastic table setter for them. A 350 on base out of him this year, 127 WRC+. The ISO landed at just 145, but he did hit 20 home runs, another 2020 season from the future Hall of Famer. Just a little bit diminished for his overall power output as compared to seasons past, but nothing really wrong with Jose Altuve, and just compensates for it by hitting for average and scoring runs and doing Jose Altuve things. Bregman struggled through the first half. It looked like it was getting ugly for Bregman, but he pulled it all together, and that's just a perfect Alex Bregman season. 260, 315, 453, a 193 ISO, 26 home runs, 118 WRC+. Looks exactly like where we expected him. All four of those hitters, fantastic at avoiding strikeouts. That's an average 15.5% strikeout rate for the top four, and then these next two in the 17s. 16% on the nose for the top six, and the entire lineup totals out to 16.8%. So it's a challenging spot for even for somebody as good as Tariq Skubal. Jainer Diaz, very effective at catcher. $4,200 catcher option. You've also got Caratini at $2,800, and you can play them together because they've both got first base eligibility. Diaz slash 299, 325, 441, 117 WRC plus, playing every single day in the heart of this lineup. 16 home runs, a very, very good 46.9% hard hit rate to cast against his only 17.3% strikeouts, 3.9% walks. So just everything is blasted into play. Jeremy Pena puts the ball in play just as much, but he doesn't hit it quite as hard as his counterpart here at the catcher spot. Jainer Diaz is the more appealing DFS option between the two, even though Pena steals some bases. 15 home runs, 20 steals out of Pena, 266, 308, 394, 100 WRC plus on the nose. He's just playable, good, not great, not exceptional, but 4,000, 2,800. He's only priced like a good average kind of a player, and he gives us plenty for DFS, but Jainer Diaz is the interesting one, especially where you have to play catchers, but even where you don't, that works as a first baseman in the mix with these four guys for some shares. Caratini, a player we highlighted basically since they started putting him in the lineup alongside Jainer Diaz. 40+% hard hits each of the last few seasons. Sub 20% strikeouts, a reasonable walk rate. Barrels the ball at a 5% clip basically over time, 5 to 6%. Nothing exceptional about his power, but he does hit the ball squarely. He does have a little bit of sneaky catcher power. At a very cheap catcher price is the second guy that everybody would click on if you had to pick one catcher in this lineup, also first base eligible, of course. He hit 8 home runs in 274 chances, had a 113 WRC plus, very positive run creator, another very low strikeout option, so fits right in with the team theme and their best option in that mix. It's better than having they can't go Singleton against the lefty here, but it gives them another quality stick. Mauricio Dubon, low strikeout, 12.9%, extremely low strikeout, 3.7% walks. Just doesn't exactly square the ball up, 2.8% barrels, 26.5% hard hits. Managed 269, 296, 361, but was a negative run creator, 87 WRC+. You also have an 86 from Jake Myers. He provided 13 home runs and 11 steals, but kind of mix and match low-end quality out of Jake Myers. So two lighter spots at the end of the lineup, but at least Dubon gives you two positions on FanDuel for 25, including second base, which is fine. Not that you'd block him from Altuve at second all that often, but it is there as an option. On FanDuel, you get Dubon at 5 different positions for 24. That has its value in lineup builds today. Just being able to plunk him down wherever you need him. Not a bad option for 400 less than their other shortstop, let's say. He doesn't fit catcher, but he does fit first base, and that's the same thing on FanDuel. Boy. Fromber, Skubal, Astros, Tigers. I don't think that surprises anyone. Everything's in play. Nuke, Ace Mind has been providing a standard deviation column in their... it's a very good question. Ace Mind's been providing a standard deviation column. I did that on purpose. I turned the screen off there. I'm going to share an Ace Mind screen real quick. Real quick. I don't know if they're up for baseball yet. Yeah. Doesn't look like the FanDuel baseball slate is loaded up. Let me give you just an example just to show you what I'm talking about. They don't have next week's football loaded up yet either. Well, bad example today because the boys don't seem to have it. Let's see if it's on DraftKings. Blaine, if you're out there, you guys got to load your projections up for baseball today if you have them. Maybe they didn't project this slate. Regardless, for football and for baseball purposes, there's two ways you can approach this, right? And the good news is you don't need an actual number if there's not a number here. But typically this will be populated with their projections, their ownership projections, a standard deviation column here. And all you have to do is you click that, and then you click here to download the template, and it opens it up. And the way I've been doing it is just grab the initial slots, drop them in, do my data pulls for my projection, ownership, whatever, and then just drop the standard deviation column in alongside it when I paste it in, and then just copy it back and load it back up here. So that'll work. The other option is that you just have default variance. So these just cover standard deviation for you. If you don't have a standard deviation, you can set it by percentage. So default pitcher variance, let's say we've got a 30-point projection there. Putting it at 50 would be 15 points. That's a little aggressive. You'd want to cut that down somewhat. I'd say 30-ish, 20-ish, 25. And then default hitter variance you could do a little bit with. Same thing. So they've got a solution if you don't have a standard deviation number, but typically they've been providing one. And you can also just kind of guesstimate some standard deviation numbers in a pinch if needed. But currently I'm not providing them. It's something I can think about going forward. Say hi to everybody. I forgot to say hi to everybody, I think. Anthony Taylor's here. What's up, Ant? Good to see you, buddy. Clintwood. Ant and Clintwood were here for the muted part of the show. Appreciate you guys letting me know. Andy, good to see you. Skubal and Valdez in the same lineup, okay, asks Clintwood. Yeah, if you can afford it. If you figure out a way to get there, nothing wrong with it. Two primo pitchers. And on a slate like this with, kind of difficult to tack down wins in playoff format where a lot of wins are decided late, so you get good starts out of these guys. They go 5-6, hand off to the high leverage arms in the bullpen in a low-scoring contest. Wins not necessarily decided for the starting pitchers, so throwing the blanket over a win with two starters in the same game, as Gundacker likes to put it, not necessarily a terrible way, but it is a very high-priced proposition there. JT's looking at Vinny P. Min price. Is he min price? I hadn't seen that yet. I'll be damned. Well, that's stupid. That's a free square. Good call out there, JT. Appreciate it. Let me keep this thing rolling. It's 1:37. There's no way in hell we're getting out of here by 2. All right. Cole Ragans 88, 9,000 definite value on DraftKings. Love the price on FanDuel as well. He's too good to be that cheap. The Orioles lineup, 21.6% strikeouts, just kind of average-ish strikeout rate. It's not exceptionally low, like, say, the Astros, like, say, the Guardians, or even the Royals on the other side at 19%. So it's not super targetable, but it's more targetable than a lot of these teams. Ragans is fantastic as a lefty, 29.3% strikeouts, a 3.14 ERA, a 3.46 xFIP, 8.8% walks, yielding just a 1.97% home run rate on 15.2 degrees average launch. That does feed a little bit more realistic home run probability, but he's been very, very good at checking home run power as well, just does it a different way. In his most recent start, 6 innings, 3 hits, 6 strikeouts, 3 walks against Washington, 7 innings, a run, 6 strikeouts, 4 walks against Detroit, 7 strikeouts, and 3 walks against the Yankees. The start before that, over 6, just gave up 2 earned. A little bit of a blip there with the walks down the stretch. The walk rate inflated a little as the season went on, but he's always walking 2, 3 through some of these games. So not an unrealistic number. He's more than able of punching his way out of trouble with a 14.4% swinging strike rate. He's absolutely terrific. Just a high danger spot, but all of these are high danger spot. It's the playoffs. Corbin Burns for 8,300, 9,700. Looks pretty fantastic. 19% strikeout rate for this lineup. He comes in with a 23.1% strikeout on 12.9% swinging, 28.6% CSW, a monster rating by Stuff Plus, 19 points, nearly 20 points above average. Pitched to a 2.92 ERA, a 3.55 xFIP. The xFIP being that much higher than the ERA is not great, but that's still a reasonably good xFIP. He's a very low walk rate pitcher at 6.1%. Doesn't really yield barrels, hard hits, or exit velo. 2.81% home runs. You could argue that he's a little unlucky on this kind of contact to even be at that number. So Corbin Burns, this is a very strong season. 194 and a third gives you terrific depth. Good shot at giving you a quality start on FanDuel. 32 starts on the season. Last season we got very similar depth numbers. Had a little bit better of a strikeout rate. Year before, made one additional start. Through a little, about an additional start's worth of innings, 30.5% strikeout rate that year. So we have seen a diminishment over the last 2 seasons in Corbin Burns, but he's still very, very good. And he's not priced like the AC once was, at least not on DraftKings. FanDuel giving you at least a little bit of a discount from some of the top-end pitchers, but Cole Ragans on the other side of this one at 9,000, maybe more appealing for FanDuel play at a slightly higher projection, and against at least the better strikeout target here. Both guys easily in play, though. Royals lineup. Mike Massey at the top of the lineup. I like that choice. 294 on base. As we've seen, the Royals have just rotated mostly through guys with a sub 300 on base all season in the leadoff role, so why not go to a pretty quality left-handed hitter? Massey hit 14 home runs. He has a 190 ISO on the season, 2% above average for run creation. Fits the team theme, very low strikeout, low walk rate, 15.7 and 4.2 there. Hits the ball squarely. Last year was 39.2% hard hits. Dipped down to 36.9 this year, but still, decent ability to square the ball up. Over another 300 plate appearances, I feel like he would have gotten that back up around 40%. Probably would have come away with 20-plus home runs. Decent lefty stick to start things off. Bobby Witt at 62.45. Absolutely terrific. 32 home runs, 31 stolen bases, a 256 ISO. An MVP contender in a year that didn't include someone named Aaron Judge, but that is a phenomenal season by any measure. 68 points above average for run creation. Strikes out at a 15% clip. Hits everything hard. Bobby Witt's a superstar. Vinny Pasquantino, as was just pointed out, is the dead min price on FanDuel. That's an absolute free square if you're stacking Royals. It's a free square if you're just looking for one-offs at first base. He should be one of the most popular players on that slate today. I don't know if he is. I haven't looked at ownership. 4,100 on DraftKings is also a great price for this hitter, by the way. Vinny hit 19 home runs in 554 plate appearances. Nice step forward for power output. He had a 183 ISO on the season. He created runs 8% better than average. He drove in 97 runs in 554 plate appearances. He was still among the league leaders. He fell off because he missed the end of the season. But when he got injured, he was top 3 in RBIs. Just a guy who drives the ball like crazy. He's been our example of that guy all year. 12.8% strikeouts, 7.2% walks, 45.8% hard hits. I'm telling you, there's even more power to come than what we've seen this season. Absolutely love this hitter. At this price, go bananas. He belongs in a ton of lineups at that price, even against Corbin Burns. Sal, Tons of power upside, 5.65 in the home run model, one of the team leaders. He hit 27 on the year, had a 185 ISO, 115 WRC plus. Another very strong season from the veteran backstop, 12.2% barrels, 44.2% hard hits. Catcher and first base eligible on DraftKings is nice because you can grab him. You could grab a high-end catcher over here or from the Astros. You could do a lot of things with Sal having first base eligibility. 330 on base. He's been a good correlated scorer as well. Julie Gurriel, 177 in the home run model. Had to juice that a little bit because he didn't hit any during the season. Limited output, 65 plate appearances, 241, 338, 296. Difficult to measure. Once upon a time was one of the most fearsome hitters in baseball. Just had a very short career because he got here from Cuba when he was like in his mid-30s. But was always a very good bat, very low strikeout. In the short sample, it popped back up to 23.1% Ks, but you can see last year in a limited sample, 13.3. That's the hitter he once was. Drew a bunch of walks in his limited sample. Also hit the ball fairly hard, 53.7% hard hits, not nothing. So, Julie, since he's in their lineup, definitely can be in yours. 2,500 at first base on both sites. Greatly prefer Vinny Pasquantino. If you're making the choice between the two, it's Vinny every time, but you can't get them both on FanDuel. MJ, love the upside. 386 in the home run model. MJ had a quietly good year outside of the average, the on base. 17 home runs and 451 plate appearances. Finished with a 194 ISO, 8.3% barrels and 45% hard hits. Those are down a little bit year over year, but he made strides in his strikeout rate. 28.2 last year, down to 25.1 this year. That's a critical factor for this hitter. I like him to have an improved year next year. I think he's very playable at these prices today. Tommy Pham, 36, 28, 9 home runs, 7 steals, and 91 WRC plus on the season. A mix and match quality player. Veteran guy, not going to be shaking in his boots in the playoffs here. Not going to be afraid to face Corbin Burns. No quantifying that, but maybe if you want to consider some of the external factors in a playoff game, Tommy Pham maybe becomes a little bit more appealing just when you get down to that last man in choice at the bottom of the lineup between, say, Tommy Pham, Kyle Isbell, or Michael Garcia. That said, Isbell's a little bit cheaper. Hit 8 home runs, stole 11 bases, and a fewer plate appearances. 81 WRC plus, not particularly good. Lefty bat for a cheaper price. And then Michael Garcia, who's an interesting player. 37 stolen bases despite a 281 on base, 69 WRC plus. Just 16.5% strikeouts is what's interesting about him. 42.6% hard hits, limited walks. So he's hitting the ball pretty hard, putting it in play. That can wreak havoc on the right day. Second base eligible on both sites, 37-26. Third base eligible on both sites as well. Mix and match quality player at best. Just a 1.21 in the home run model. He only hit 7 all year despite that good contact. Not good at sequencing or correlated scoring. But a mix and match guy with a little bit of pop in the bat, I'll take it. The Orioles. Ooh, it's a rough swallow. You ever take a mouthful of something and then like your throat's like, wait, we're not ready. And then it just like hurts when you swallow? That's what just happened. Don't know what that is. Probably some kind of like anti-choking device from our evolution. Would have been fun to watch if that didn't happen. To just watch spit take like right all over the camera. Anywho. Orioles gunner, 6,000, 3,900 competitive with Bobby Witt for shortstop shares for a slightly lower price on both sites. Nicer discount on FanDuel by $600 rather than the $200 that DraftKings is giving you. Gunner hit 37 home runs, 21 stolen bases, a 248 ISO, 155 WRC plus. Lefty to start out. I'll look him up. That's an important one. You'll figure out a good way to get splits into the board for next year. 8 of his home runs against lefties this season. Lower end slash line, but still pretty good. 257, 359, 470. I'll take that. 213 ISO, 138 WRC plus lefty. No issues with it. Perfectly fine lefty with gunner. Jordan Westberg, 45-32, multi-position on both sites, including second base is terrific. He had 18 home runs, stole 6 bases, and 447 opportunities. If he had had the complete season, he would have had a very, very solid first year. 216 ISO, 125 WRC plus. Fire away with shares if you're stacking up Orioles. Santander, best season of his career, 44 home runs, a 271 ISO, 129 WRC plus. Struck out sub 20%, 8.7% walks. 11.7% barrel. Santander was fantastic this year. 8.47 in the home run model to lead this team today. Ryan Mountcastle for 35-28 can be in my lineup against the lefty. 271, 308, 425, a 154 ISO, 13 home runs. Disappointing season out of Mountcastle. I was expecting a step forward. He took kind of a step back, but he has a good right-handed bat. I cannot be convinced otherwise. Last year, 12.1% barrels, 44.6% hard hits. Higher numbers the year before. This year it dipped to 8.8 and 45.2, but maintained a 45.2% hard hit. That's where your home run power went, is the dip in barrel rate. But that's a little bit of swing plane adjustment. That's fixable. 35.28 is a great price. He's hitting cleanup behind some of the best bats in baseball. He's got good coverage behind him. I like that spot for a cheap price. It's just we've got a $2,000 Vinny Pasquantino on the other side at the same position. Adley Rutschman, 45.29, 19 home runs, a 140 ISO, 104 WRC+. Finished with a solid but not spectacular season. He's only 4,500 though. He's not 5,600 anymore on DraftKings. It makes a lot of sense to me. 29 on FanDuel, totally playable like he's a first baseman over there. You can mix and match your way through him and Mountcastle in tandem with one another or one or the other. Both of them are reasonable options today. Colton Cowser finished with 13.6% barrels, 45.2% hard hits, 24 home runs on the season, a 204 ISO. Monster season out of Cowser. Ramon Urias, always a source of cheap, low-owned power. In 301 plate appearances, he hit 11 home runs. Good righty bat, reasonable power upside. Gonna be cheap, is cheap, gonna be too low-owned. 169 ISO, 115 WRC+. He's no superstar, but you don't need a superstar for those roles and those prices when people are going to be not going to him that aggressively on a day where has potential. Even if he doesn't homer, again, low scoring events, small scoring events could make a difference on a slate like this. He's a low strikeout, 18.3%, a lot of bat on ball out of Ramon Urias. So you can get a lot for that money. Ced Mullins at the bottom of the lineup, you can get a lot out of him as well for different reasons. 18 homers, 32 steals, a good category filler. Limited output this year, but 19.6% strikeouts, so a lot of balls in play out of him as well. 4.8% barrels, 32.7% hard hits. Limited power, limited premium contact, but still managed 18 homers on that. James McCann in there because there's a lefty on the mound, 3,000, 2,500. Limited, and most of these plate appearances came against lefties, 234, 279, 388, 8 home runs on the year. So mix and match quality catcher at best. This goes boy. Cole Ragans, Corbin Burns. It's a virtual tie. And then Orioles bats over Royals bats. But just barely. And I'm really only doing that because of Vegas. I kind of like the Royals bats better. You know what? I'm not going to do that. Royals bats over Orioles bats for me. I like all these really good lefties. I love that Vinny Pasquantino free square. And Burns, good as he is maybe a little bit more targetable. Maybe. It's very close. Four quarters game for sure. Everything's in play. Mets Brewers. Let's see if we got that Brewers lineup. Well, we got the Mets lineup. Still no Brewers. Come on, no surprises in the Mets lineup. Jesse Winker, of course. Fucking Jesse Winker's playing. Dude didn't play for like 3 weeks, and now he's in the lineup. All right. Freddie Peralta, 79, 86, 27.6% strikeouts on the season, a 3.68 ERA with a 3.93 xFIP. A solid but diminished season from Freddie, I'll say. He's been better. 3.86 ERA, 3.42 xFIP last year, 3.58 ERA, 3.66 xFIP the season before. Last year was at 30+% strikeouts, nearly 31 on a 14.4% swinging, 29.4% CSW. Year before was more like this year as far as the swinging strikes, as far as the strikeout rate goes. He's always been a relatively high walk pitcher, but he's pretty good at keeping runs somewhat in check, and he's capable of monster days. Very good strikeout pitcher. He's going up against, again, a frisky Mets lineup, though, with a little bit of pop in it. 2 guys above the magic number, a couple guys floating around the magic number in the home run model, and some interesting bats. Good run-creating bats. A lot of high walk rates in this lineup as well. 3 double-digit walk rates, another couple guys pushing like 9%, so it could be problematic for Freddie on the wrong day. I do have Mets in my placeholder right now, and I kind of like the looks of the team. Excuse me. The one thing I'd be concerned about with the Mets is just what does that next day hangover look like, you know? Playing 2, then going and getting on a plane, flying to Milwaukee, getting to your hotel late, etc., etc. going to be an impact in there somewhere. It's unquantifiable. It's not something I'm going to rule out or even downgrade the Mets for at all. It's just what I worry about when I put the Mets in my lineup. Hopefully that makes sense. Luis Severino on the other side, 72-82 across sides, downright cheap. He's going up against a Brewers lineup that does have a 23.7% strikeout rate for this projected version of the lineup, which is enough to chew on for Severino. He had a 21.2% strikeout rate for the season. He's been higher than that in seasons past. Best thing for him, 31 starts, 182 innings. Who saw that coming? 3.91 ERA, but a 4.12 xFIP. He's just, on a lot of teams, 3-4 starter, that kind of level. But a 7.9% walk rate, 9.4% swinging. The 24.1% CSW is problematic, but he's gotten away with it. 21.2% Ks against that. If he could throw a few more strikes, probably find a few more strikeouts. 5.7% barrels, 87.1 miles an hour of exit velo, 35% hard hits. Very, very good this year at inducing weak and medium contact, which plays well against this Brewer squad. 3.02% home run rate, just kind of middle of the road. Love Sevy at price. Think he's a phenomenal SP2 on DraftKings. Think you got to go there a lot on the DraftKings slate. He's going to be popular in that role, though. A lot of people are just going to be going like, one of these guys, Sevy. So that's where the elder or whoever pitches for Atlanta situation comes in. Somebody asked in the chat, I mentioned it at the top of the show. I think it's going to be Elder now. Haven't seen any confirmation. If we get confirmation that it's Ian Anderson, he has talent but hasn't pitched in the show since 2022. Oh, we do have the Brewers lineup. Perfect. But we'll get to that game in half a second. Let me talk about these lineups real quick. I am trying to hit the gas pedal a little bit because I got to get some lineups in after the show. Let me get the confirm, though. Hit the like button and subscribe while you're here. Check out acemind.io for your sim and optimization needs, and pop on over to rotoscouts.com. Create yourself an account. Every subscription at Rotoscouts is under $1 a day for all of the sports that we cover. Every single piece of content, every single tool for every single sport will always be under $1 a day. That's across every single plan, weekly, monthly, and quarterly. It's just a choice of what term and price point fits best. 75 cents a day on the quarterly, 85 cents a day on the monthly, 99 cents a day on your weekly. So as I said earlier in the day, if you think about it, if you go sign up right now, you get today's baseball slate, you get baseball the rest of the week, and you get football on the weekend for your 1 week for $6.93, I think. Trying to keep it as cheap as humanly possible, as inexpensive, as humanly possible. No reason to be paying hundreds of dollars for projections when you're entering a few dollars worth of lineups every day. It's our ongoing philosophy here. We're serving a market for people who are building lineups 1, 5, 20. If you're a max builder, all of this stuff works just as well for you, but you're probably more capable of or more inclined to pay up big prices. There's a big population of people who just play a handful of lineups, play a couple bucks a day. I think they're looking for something like this. So hopefully that works for you guys. Check it out, rotoscouts.com. We get this lineup finished. Hoskins, Frelick, Ortiz. It was exactly what it was. Clintwood's got no faith in Detroit or Houston bats today. Yeah, I mean, in that pitching matchup, dude, that is totally reasonable take, especially on the Detroit side. Houston, I give a little bit more credit to, especially playoff Houston, obviously. I know what that's like. OMG Lols. Yup. Don't know what the yup was in reference to, but appreciate it. So, bats-wise, Frankie Lindor, top of the Mets lineup, 56-42, playing with a hurt back from carrying the team, but he has been fantastic down the stretch. Big home run yesterday, 32 homers, 29 steals, a 223 ISO, 136 WRC plus for the season. He's just fantastic. We talked about, he had a bad slump to start the season. We had faith, was harping on that for a number of weeks there and how nothing was different and how he was going to come around, and look where he landed. Terrific way to start out, a little bit cheaper than the other prime shortstops, and no talent gap there, and gets a reasonable matchup against Freddie, where some of the other shortstops in more challenging matchups. Jose Iglesias, 3,900, 2,700, has no business hitting 341, 387, 456 with a 140 ISO, 4 home runs, 5 steals over 282 plate appearances, but there it is. He did it. 3 position eligible on FanDuel, just a second baseman, but that's where you'd want him on DraftKings. Very low strikeout at 13.5, 4.3% walks. Doesn't hit the ball hard, but he's been a very productive cog in the machine as a run creator for this lineup, and just, the driving force of their enthusiasm. So I don't think they can take him out of the lineup at this point. Hitting between Lindor, Brandon Nimmo, Mark Vientos is a pretty good spot for him as a table setter. You can do worse than plugging him in for cheap prices if you need to differentiate a little bit. He'll probably be more popular than his talent justifies, but the output's been there. Nimmo, an actually good player, 9% barrels, 47.1% hard hits. A disappointing season in terms of the slash line, 224, 328, 396. 172 is a dip in ISO. Still it came up with 22 home runs and 15 steals. Got cheap for the bit of a diminishment. Still was a positive run creator at 109 WRC+. Draws a lot of walks. Mark Vientos comes into the playoffs at just 4,400 after spending 450 plate appearances, rampaging through the major leagues. 27 home runs, a 251 ISO, 135 WRC+. Officially this team's best power hitter right now. 10.68 in the home run model. He's fantastic. I don't understand why he's so cheap. 14.3% barrels and 46.8% hard hits. Sure, he strikes out 30% of the time, but who cares? He's fantastic. Third base on DraftKings, first and third base on FanDuel. Pete Alonso finished the season with 34 home runs, another strong power season from Alonso, 222 ISO. Created runs 23% better than average, 13.1% barrels and 45.9% hard hits out of Pete. Just under the magic number for home run upside, kind of surprised. Would not have batted an eye at Pete Alonso being over 10 in this spot. Very affordable at 46.33 for his power output. Jesse Winker, 36, 26, 14 homers, 14 steals. A good, not great season. A nice bounce back for him. It's just an average-ish kind of a season overall. The 360 on base is above average, well above average. It's fantastic, in fact. 118 WRC+. He was 18 points above average for run creation. Just as far as the DFS of it, the 14 homers, the 14 steals, just okay. But a good correlated scoring option. Starling Marte provides some good correlated scoring as well. 102 WRC+ on a 323 on base. 7 home runs, 16 stolen bases. Good at everything, not great at anything. Tyrone Taylor, a little bit lower end than that. 7 home runs, 10 steals. Had a big at-bat late in the game yesterday. A good right-handed bat on ball. Kind of a player who's capable of squaring the ball up. For 33-25 is a mix and match quality guy. You can definitely do worse than Tyrone Taylor. And then Francisco Alvarez has a ton of power, 11 home runs and 338 plate appearances. Quality season out of him. The triple slash diminished as time went on, but still came away with a 102 WRC+, a 164 ISO, and we know there's more to give than that. On the Brewers side, Bryce Turang in the top spot. Table setter. 50 stolen bases on the year, got up to a 316 on base, just an 87 WRC+. Needs to improve in some ways, but a good table setter with a little bit of individual scoring upside given the speed. Hitting ahead of Jackson Chourio is a great spot in the lineup. 21 homers and 22 steals for Chourio. 189 ISO. Just a fantastic rookie season by any measure, and just explosive upside going forward. 7.8% barrels, 44.6% hard hits. Cost was 43.32 across sites. 7.83 against Severino in the home run model looks pretty good to me. He pairs well with William Contreras, one of the top catchers on the slate. Contreras finished at 281, 365, 466, a 131 WRC+, 23 home runs in another fantastic season. This team will suffer a little bit from no Christian Yelich. They've got Garrett Mitchell in the outfield, 3,500, 2,800, very cheap option. 8 home runs, 11 steals, 214 ISO, 126 WRC+, over 224 plate appearances. Pretty decent output from somebody who's so cheap. We've seen him put good bat on ball over time. It's limited, kind of limited sample context, but those are decent hard hit rates, good barrel rates. He's playable. He's a high strikeout, but he also walks at an 11.2% clip. Willy Adames, best season of his career. 32 homers, 21 steals, a 211 ISO, 119 WRC+. Step down at 4,500. That's stupid cheap. I don't know what the fuck DraftKings is doing at 4,500 on that player. 3,600 is correct on FanDuel. DraftKings apparently didn't watch any of his season all year long. He should be at least 5,000 on this slate. That's a bargain compared to Lindor, Witt, Gunnar, etc. Really no daylight between his numbers and the power in the counting stats department. Jake Bauers at 31, 25, 12 homers, 13 steals. Mixed bag of quality. Sub Mendoza, 301 on base, 87 WRC+, not great. Very high strikeout, but draws his walks. Can put good bat on ball from time to time. Rhys Hoskins puts excellent bat on ball. He's high strikeout, high walk. 26 home runs, a 303 on base. At league average for run creation for the season, 205 ISO. And then Sal Frelick, another good table setter, a lot of speed, 18 stolen bases, a 320 on base. Just an 86 WRC+, though. Joey Ortiz finished with a better WRC+, 104. He got back above the waterline for run creation. 11 homers, 11 steals. Mixed quality season at 239, 329, 398, but room to grow. 20.2% strikeouts against 11% walks is pretty good. And just look at all the walks in this Brewers lineup. This is part of why they're so good. They're a good sequencing team. Those 5 hitters, an average 11% walk rate on the nose. The entire 9-man lineup, an average 326 on base percentage. Solid Brewers lineup. It's probably Brewers bats on top, but then Mets bats very close behind. I think I'm going to go that route. I'm going to go Brewers bats, Mets bats, Freddie Peralta, Luis Severino. But everything, again, very, very close, very, very playable. And Severino, the best quality among the cheap options on the mound. Last game up. I'm going to try and get through this one quickly because I still got to build lineups. Let me click that go button. I'm also probably using players that were in projected lineups that might not pitch or might not hit. So assuming it's Bryce Elder, 10 starts in the show, 49 2/3 this year, a 6.52 ERA, but a 3.95 xFIP. Capable but not good, I think is a fair way to put it. In his last start in the show, he faced the Brewers, went 3 2/3, gave up 7 earned runs, struck out 6. Start before that, he faced the same Brewers team in a start in Milwaukee, went 6 1/3, 1 earned run, 7 strikeouts. Struck out 9, but gave up 6 against St. Louis in 5 innings the start before that. He's a very frustrating pitcher. In AAA this season, he had a 3.81 ERA with a 3.73 with a 3.87 xFIP over another 101 innings in 17 starts. If it's Ian Anderson, he hasn't pitched in the show again since 2022, but he's got a few good playoff starts on his resume, which is part of why he was getting some buzz. Did I not grab his... Fuck. In AAA this season, Anderson made 10 starts, 52 1/3, had a 3.96 ERA with a 4.35 xFIP, struck out 23.2, but walked 11.8. For his career in the show, 35 2/3 over 8 starts, 27.6% strikeout, 11.7% walk. He pitched in the postseason while with Atlanta in 2020 and 2021. He made 4 starts each year. In 2020, he had a .96 ERA over the 4 starts with a 4.09 xFIP, a 1.59 ERA, and a 4.95 xFIP in the 4 starts in 2021. Respectively, had a 31.2% strikeout in the playoffs, 13% walk, 23.5, and 10.3 in 2021. So successful starts, high strikeout in the playoffs. If he pitches at all, this is Ian Anderson that I'm talking about now. But again, we have not seen this pitcher in the show since 22. And then the third potential option is AJ Smith-Shawver. Smith-Shawver in AAA this season, 20 starts, 87 innings, had a 28.5% strikeout, but an 11% walk, 4.86 ERA, but a 4.61 xFIP. Minor league pitcher so far, he's just 21, high-end prospect for them. He's the least likely, in my opinion, of the 3 to get this start. I think it's Elder. If it's not Elder, it's probably Ian Anderson. Just keep an eye on it. Elder pitches, projects out okay for the money. Just kind of a cheap square. Not a great matchup. Not a good matchup at all for strikeouts. Padres kind of surging. Padres the highest projected implied total on the board. Their bats are drawing a lot of attention on that side. That would be one reason to maybe consider some Elder. Still no lineups here. And then on the Padres side, Michael King looked pretty terrific against the Braves lineup with this version, 22.5% strikeouts. But as we've focused on a lot, through the heart of their order, that's a 26.2% strikeout rate for some of their absolutely key bats. You get 20% out of Michael Harris, 21 out of Orlando Arcia, just Ozzie Albies and Gio Urshela pulling the overall average down. So there are strikeouts, and depending on what version of the lineup we get, we only go higher in strikeout rate. So definitely opportunity for King, who finished the season at 27.7 in the strikeout rate, 12% swinging strikes, 31.3% CSW on the year, 2.95 ERA with a 3.50 xFIP. He was very, very good. He was terrific at inducing weak and medium contact, 30.1% hard hits, 85.7 miles an hour of exit velo, 2.34% home run rate. King was terrific this year. Had a couple bumpy starts at the beginning of the season, pulled it all together nicely. There is a half-run difference between the xFIP and the ERA, but that's still a very tight. If that was your ERA, you wouldn't be complaining. In terms of and by the way, 8,100 is a stupid cheap price for this pitcher. 99 on FanDuel makes sense. That's my go-to on FanDuel right now. Braves got in by the skin of their teeth because the Mets punted that second game yesterday. If you watch that, the Mets were not trying to hit the ball in that second game. They were just trying to get the game over with and get out of town. But got the Braves into the playoffs. They were bad all season, but they managed to get here. Michael Harris, good player at the top of the lineup, 16 homers, 10 steals, good for DFS purposes, at league average for run creation on the season, but a better player than that. We've seen it. Good for multiple counting stats, home runs, and stolen bases, and has been kind of rounding into form as the season comes to a close here. Good barrel rate, good hard hit rate on the year. Ozzie Albies, the worst season of his career, 426 plate appearances, injury that cost him a big chunk of the season. Just look year over year, 280, 336, 513 with 33 home runs and 13 steals last year. This year, 247, 298, 393 with 9 and 8. Pretty weak season, pretty fantastic player, 4,600, 3,300. He's just discounted at second base. Take the option. 52-37 for Marcell Ozuna, who leads the team at 8.42 in the home run model. He only hit 39 this year, 247 ISO, 156 WRC+. Fantastic season from a very, very good player. 15-6 and 53-2 barrels and hard hits. Monster bat for 52-37. Honestly, a little bit underpriced. Still high prices, but relative to the output, relative to the quality, a little underpriced. Struggling a little bit down the stretch as the season closed out, but still very dangerous. Matty Olson, 12.6% barrels, 47.2% hard hits. Finished at 29 home runs. Would have liked 40 there and 30 there, but we'll take what we get. 213 ISO, 118 WRC+. Olson for just 3,200, 5,000 across sites at first base. Tons and tons of power upside. One of the best power hitters at the position, regardless of this year's slight diminishment in quality. Jorge Soler, Ramon Laureano, both blasting the ball. Soler got up to 21 home runs. Laureano got up to 10 in just 300 plate appearances. He also stole 8 bases. 199 ISO out of Soler, 173 out of Laureano. Both players hit the ball really hard for under 4,000 on DraftKings. Fair prices in the outfield on FanDuel. Easy to get to. Sean Murphy. Bad season, over 261 plate appearances out of Murph. 10 home runs is good. 159 ISO, 76 WRC+. Not so good, but we know that this is a very good power hitter as a catcher. Just look at the barrel and the premium contact numbers year over year the last 2 years. Dipped this year, but was out for most of the season. Never really found his footing. Any given slate upside. Had a big home run down the stretch for this team. Urshela has never been much of a hitter. 29-25 mix and match quality on a short slate is really all he is. 2,800, 2,600 for Orlando Arcia as a differentiation shortstop. Sure, he did hit 17 home runs. He's got a little bit of ability still, but it was a very bad season out of him, and he's going up against a very good pitcher who does not give up much in terms of home runs. On the Padres side, the super low strikeout, high-end sequencing team. This team checks in with apologies to Kyle Higgy, but 8-man, 336 on-base percentage. If we stretch to Higgy, it goes down to 328, but still excellent at sequencing. That's what they do. They're good, not great for power output. You do have Fernando Tatis, Manny Machado, Kyle Higashioka at the bottom of the lineup for power, but this team's better for sequencing. Luis Arraez sets the table, 4.3% strikeouts, 3.6% walks on the season, 314, 346, 392, third consecutive batting title. First player to do it, what was it, American League, National League, I believe, across 3 different teams in 3 consecutive years. Pretty tremendous. 55-43 for Fernando Tatis. Not a bad price in the outfield. 21 homers, 11 steals, a 216 ISO, 135 WRC+. Superstar caliber player against Bryce Elder. Going to be really popular. That's the thing with the Padres. They are super popular today. So if you believe it all in Atlanta pitching, or if you want to just differentiate lineups, undercutting Padres players while still having many in your portfolio is the way to go. Look at Jurickson Profar finish the season strong. 280, 380, 459, 179 ISO's okay. It's lower than, star caliber, but from Jurickson Profar, I would have signed for that early in the season. 24 home runs, 10 steals, a 139 ISO. Tremendous. Double-digit walk rate. The only guy on the team walking in the double digits. 15.1% strikeouts. Best season of his life by a long stretch. 4,100, 3,400. This DraftKings price never caught up to his production this year. Fire away. Discount. He's going to be extremely popular at that price. So is Jackson Merrill, by the way, at 43. Manny Machado at 54-36, finished with 29 homers, 11 steals, a 197 ISO, 122 WRC+. Strong slash line, another good season out of Manny. You can absolutely include him at third base, but he'll be popular. Merrill, rookie season. If he's not the rookie of the year, he's the runner-up to Paul Skeens because Paul Skeens. 292, 326, 500, a 208 ISO, 24 homers, 16 steals, a 130 WRC+. The only rookie who was good all year. The only one. Fantastic season out of him. 43 is way too cheap. 33 is too cheap on FanDuel. Bogey at 39, 29, mix and match quality. Definitely a veteran who's been here before in reasonable belief that he could succeed in this spot. 11 home runs, 13 steals, 95 WRC plus, limited on base. Not a good season, but low strikeout, put the ball in play, and a player, again, a veteran that's very cheap for the diminishment in quality, but I believe there's still some upside there for these cheap prices, probably lower owned than a lot of the other Padres. Jake Cronenworth, a solid mixer, 3,500, 3,000 at second base, 17 homers, mix and match, 105 WRC plus, not great, but he's okay. Donovan Solano, well-struck balls in play, 286, 343, 417, a 118 WRC plus, and then our guy Higgy finished with 17 home runs over 263 plate appearances after hitting 10 a season in similar numbers the last 2 years. Great improvement, still very high strikeout, very unreliable, but a 5.94 in the home run model is not nothing. And that's our slate, gang. This one goes King, Padres bats, Braves bats, and then whoever's on the mound from the Braves just as a valued dart. This is your pitching board one last time. I'm actually not going to go through it because I need the time. It's 2:15, so I got to punch out. But that's your pitching board one last time. I know that I am, by the way, showing the projections and the numbers. If you're writing all these down and then inputting them into a optimizer manually, you've beaten me on the paywall. What can I say? There's your home run board. Kyle Tucker up at the top. Mark Vientos, number 2 in the home run pick of the day. Some Mets power, some Brewers power showing nice numbers on both sides. A couple of Astros creeping in. But the Brewers and the Mets look like the 2 prime power spots to me. Do with that information what you will. That's it, gang. Appreciate you. 42 you guys watching. Check out rotoscouts.com for everything you need. I'm going to run an update in the next couple of minutes. Get all that taken care of. Good luck out there tonight. Somebody go win something. Come on back tomorrow. We're going to do a football show at some point tomorrow, and we'll do baseball playoffs for whatever the slate looks like. See you.